What you thought you knew about dealing with heat and staying cool is either incorrect or inapplicable in a collapse world. Whatever the cause of the collapse, be it a series of natural disasters or simply a long agonizing economic collapse caused by corruption, as in my home country of Lebanon, relying solely on technologies to stay cool is the worst idea. Your air conditioner will be useless just like mine in Lebanon because it consumes too much electricity. And if you have solar panels and batteries just for that, do you really have the electrical knowledge to maintain your system? And what will you do if an EMP strikes? Join me in the series of videos about life in a collapsed world fueled by the experience of my country's collapse. And let's see the proven methods to beat the heat with minimal resources and no nonsense. And the next video will be on the water management. Shades are the most important factor in maintaining a cool and comfortable living environment. However, you must use them correctly. You will frequently hear or see YouTubers using indoor blinds or curtains. It helps a little, but it's far from ideal. Because the heat has already passed through the glass, interior coverings are less effective. You must prevent the rays from even reaching the windows. So you have to install the Mediterranean solution exterior window shades, particularly on the south and west sides, which receive the most solar exposure. It's best to have something white that is made of thick natural tissue, and the fabric will not become as hot as dark fabric. Because of the thickness of the fabric, the heat will not be transmitted to the other side. I will return later to discuss white versus dark colors and fabric thickness for another strategy. And in case you don't know, I usually like to show solutions to even the most difficult situations. So, if you don't have anything to cover your windows outside and you don't have a balcony to install the Mediterranean solution, these really cheap IKEA occulting shades are a good temporary and cheap solution. They simply will not withstand wind, but thanks to a Velcro system, they are extremely easy to remove if a storm comes. If you live in a dry area, you can enhance the cooling effect by spraying water onto the blinds and window screens. Water evaporation aids in heat dissipation and adds to the overall cooling experience, but I will return to the evaporation of water and cooling later. Now, covering your entire house in a thick white fabric is not an option. However, you may have noticed something much more manageable: protecting your home with plant vines. This is especially true on the south and west sides. These natural barriers provide shade and act as a shield against direct sunlight, assisting in the cooling of the exterior walls. You may also install pergolas or roof extensions on the south side of your house to create even more shades and protect your windows from direct sunlight. After shades, proper ventilation is the second most important factor in maintaining a comfortable indoor environment. It creates air movement that increases the evaporation of sweat from your skin, which can create a cooling effect. During cooler hours, you should open the windows to take advantage of the lower outside temperature and allow fresh air to circulate throughout your home. For effective ventilation, open windows that are opposite each other, such as north-south or east-west. There are a lot of misconceptions about how to position your fans on YouTube. You can hear people telling you to turn it inwards, but it doesn't work well. It's simple. Standing directly behind the fan, you will notice that it does not draw a lot of air because fans draw in air from all sides, so they are more effective at blowing air out of a window rather than sucking it in. So, for best results, place your fan facing outward approximately under 1 meter from your windows. See this video for a live demonstration. Again, my hypothesis for a collapsed world is that you will have a bit of electricity similar to how the state provides about 3 hours of electricity per day in Lebanon. You won't be able to run air conditioner because it consumes far too much power, but a fan is only a few watts, and you can even find fans with built-in battery capacity in order to charge them when you will receive whatever energy that you might receive. Furthermore, these handheld fans can provide some temporary minor relief. However, if you really want to use them to cool you down by using the evaporative cooling effect of your sweat, I doubt that the energy you will produce by operating the fan will not end up producing more heat and make you feel hotter. Unless if you have a slave who will fan you, an energy slave. It's actually one of my upcoming video topics, so subscribe if you want to learn more about this energy slave concept. Now, clothing and bedding are also important factors to consider for your comfort on hot days. When dressing for the heat, you can actually hear two opposite trains of thoughts: wear light color or dark color. This train of thoughts are even seeable in the population living in the desert. But how come these two examples are so different? Well, science for now seems to indicate that both of these techniques are effective, but you need to implement them right. The people living in the Arabic desert wear light-colored clothes. This enables to reflect a good part of the sun ray and not heat too much, while having some breathability for the wind. Tuareg, on the other hand, dress in dark-colored but much thicker clothing. Because of the thick fabric, heat is not transmitted to the skin. Tuaregs also wear their robes loosely. Inside, the cooling is accomplished through convection as air rises between the robe and the skin. In real life, we should probably wear lighter colored clothing because Tuareg clothing is unlikely to be available in your local stores. So choose lightweight, loose-fitting clothing made of breathable materials. Natural fibers such as cotton or linen allow for better airflow, keeping you cool and comfortable throughout the day. The same principle applies to your bedding. Choose breathable fabrics that promote air circulation, resulting in a more comfortable night's sleep. When it comes to fabric, it's best to avoid synthetic materials and instead opt for natural fibers. You are already ingesting too many plastics and drenching yourself in PFAS, so you will thank me later when I make a video on plasticosis. In addition to the previous suggestions, there are few more practical strategies you can use to beat the heat. You should reduce heat sources inside your home by avoiding using appliances that generate extra heat, such as hair dryers and ovens. Instead, consider cooking outside to avoid unnecessary heat buildup indoors, especially during the day. For generations, the Lebanese have solved this problem by cooking salads on hot days. Nothing beats fattoush and tabouleh in the summer. Here's an interesting tip for hot nights. Try placing your mattress on the floor. Since heat tends to rise, this can help you stay cooler while you sleep. Naturally, if you have a basement, it can be a great place to escape to during hot weather. There are also numerous little indoor tricks that can be useful. For example, you should try to isolate your home better. In the winter, isolation prevents heat from leaving your home, but in the summer, insulation prevents heat from entering your cool space. As a result, you should definitely improve your home's insulation if possible. Carpets can be used as insulation, which is a great cultural tip you may not have known about. You may be familiar with the crazy drunk Russian videos where they have these incredibly ugly carpets both on the floor and on the walls for cold. Carpets can be used for the exact same reason against heat. Carpets add another insulation layer that helps prevent heat from entering the house. Otherwise, you can close different doors or better seal some of your vents or the space beneath your doors. As I mentioned in the wildfire smoke video, be cautious not to overdo it with such insulation. Install a carbon monoxide detector because excessive sealing increases the risk of carbon monoxide buildup. Let's not forget about the importance of staying hydrated. It may appear obvious, but it's worth emphasizing. Drink plenty of fluids throughout the day to keep your body hydrated and maintain optimal well-being. You've probably come across various do-it-yourself air cooler solutions while browsing the internet. However, consider whether these solutions are appropriate for a collapsed world or your specific environment. Let us examine them more closely. One popular method is to use ice and a fan. This is accomplished by placing a shallow bowl of ice in front of a fan. The cooling effect created by the fan blowing air over the ice spreads throughout the room. While this method is effective, it may not be suitable for everyone because it necessitates a sufficient energy supply to produce and maintain the ice. Another approach makes use of the evaporative cooling effect. This entails applying a wet towel to your skin, particularly your forehead, or placing damp towels in front of open windows. Swamp coolers, which can be used as an alternative to air conditioning, are also popular. These methods can effectively cool you and your immediate surroundings, but they work best in dry environments. If you live in an area with high humidity, say 60% or higher, these techniques may not be as effective. This is because the presence of moisture can actually raise the heat index at your location, resulting in a higher perceived temperature. Let us take a look at an example. The heat index table from Wikipedia is shown here. If the temperature at your place is around 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit for Americans, and the humidity is 60%, you will perceive it as 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. However, if you use a swamp cooler, you may temporarily reduce the temperature of your home, but you will also increase the humidity. Simply increasing it to 75% will result in an increase in the perceived temperature of about 5 degrees. So, I really hope the swamp cooler will decrease the temperature at your place by more than 5 degrees, otherwise you will be increasing your perceived temperature. In fact, if you are not careful, it may even approach the wet bulb temperature and put you in danger. In order to have something useful in a collapsed environment, it's critical to keep these factors in mind when researching do-it-yourself air cooling solutions, as well as the specific conditions of your environment. Now, if you want to learn more about what it's like to live in a collapsing country, you should definitely watch this video. There's a lot to learn. If you have any question, don't hesitate to leave a comment. You can support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee, and we stay in touch on Twitter and Instagram. Special thanks to my Patreon and YouTube support tankers. You are the MVPs that help me continue to do these free videos.